Welcome to the April 7th, 2022 South Strabane Township Planning Commission, our regular meeting tonight. We have several items on the agenda. It's not real involved, but first of all, I'd like to stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First, this is not on the agenda, but I do want to introduce our new member of our planning commission here, Don Reitz. Don Reitz. He comes from a pretty good background from what I can tell, and we're happy to have him on here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Feel free to.
I don't know what I signed up for, but
You'll find out soon enough. Okay. Now we have public comment time. If there's anybody in the public that wants to make a comment about anything regarding the township, please feel free to do that now. Anybody? Public comments? Okay, not hearing any, then we'll move on to number three, I'm sorry, is approval of the planning commission regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing for the continued consideration of an application for a text amendment to the zoning code from a Rico Real Estate Company to allow a mini warehouse or self-storage facility as a conditional use in the C2 zoning district. Is there anybody here representing the applicant?
Yes, Bernard Ravick, I'm the counsel for the applicant.
Okay. And
I am ready to proceed.
go right ahead, sir.
All right. The hearing before this planning commission meeting on January the 6th of 2022 was continued to enable America to produce for the planning commission certain documents clarifying the specific proposal. Multiple copies of those documents were hand delivered to the South Strabane municipal offices by Jim Milliken, who is the agent for America. Copy of the specific amendments language was provided to Jim Sutter, assistant to the township manager, and I think he can verify that. Finally, on March 30th, 2022, complying with the terms and conditions of your zoning ordinance, I sent correspondence via UPS to the Washington County Planning Commission requesting that it review the proposed amendment. Copy was sent to Mr. Sutter and was to be made part of the record and marked as an exhibit. Now, I have not heard back.
We haven't either, but that's why we asked for this.
Exactly. And then you have a copy of the letter that
I do,
sent.
and I did provide it.
All right, now Mike Semba, who is on my right here, will comment on the documents delivered by Jim. Each individual document will be made part of this record and marked consecutively, beginning with the wisdom of the stenographer. Now, we have attempted to be as meticulous as we possibly can, and I think Jim Sutter can verify that. We try to be flexible, and hopefully we try to be professional. And keeping that in mind, I'm requesting that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Supervisors that it approve the pending amendment to the zoning ordinance. Also, something that we hinted back in January, we have a traffic study which we will make available to you, and that certainly goes to the safety and welfare of your citizens. That's about it for my opening statement. Mike Zemba, who is already under oath, will try to explain and clarify the various documents that we have produced. Mike?
One of the first was to provide a site plan showing both our existing property as well as the two parcels that were purchased next to us that were not legible. So I have a copy of that, and the combined with the two parcels is 2.31 acres, and what America currently owns is 6.1. The suggestion was, with the ordinance, in order to even be considered with self-storage, that you needed to have a minimum of 5 acres. So we would need to combine, which we had agreed to do. So this is just to show you in large print what it would look like. And of course, we can combine those as we had stated in the last meeting with that. I don't know if you had any questions or anything on that or any comments.
Like, I just think the existing buildings that are to the rear in your new development, what are you gonna do with those dwellings back there? Are they gonna remain, or are they gonna be demoed?
Yeah, our proposal was to demo those buildings. Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't know if you had any other questions on this.
Scott, do you have any comments?
No comments on that.
This is our existing 6.1 acres of land. This is here. And 6.1 combined. And also, what we were asked to do was to provide the text on the ordinance for self-storage that we're asking for as far as the text amendment, which we have. And a couple of things that were pointed out in there that we actually, through our hearing, was suggesting as well as, the buildings that we had shown that we're proposing that we have across other parts of the United States were of at least 3 stories. So what we had added into the text for the self-storage allotment already is 3 stories, not to exceed 40 feet, which we have caught up. And one of the last things on the Z, I'm sorry, that's J on the text amendment that you have with the zoning. And then one of the other suggestions was, of course, is to allow the board to have a final say on the structure and the design, which we also had put into the text amendment request. And everything else as far as the compliance, obviously, through our site development, anything that is required as far as compliance, we have full intention to do all of that. And then we also prepared an actual, or a rendition, I should say, of what the potential facility would look like. And again, we've been in your community for a little since the late 1970s, and we're looking to expand our operations. And, part of our outlook is to make sure that we tie in well with what you already have planned and in the area. So we kind of used a little bit of the medical facility across the street from us that's been there for years. And if you can kind of see in our original renditions that we have, and I have some pamphlets I could recirculate if you'd like, we have different variations of different elevations, different colors, different looks. This is just a proposal of what the facility would look like. And we're also intending on sprucing up our existing facility to the match.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, and if you kind of look on your 8.5 by 17, this is one of our proposed buildings in the front. And then our existing building is in the background, if you will. You can kind of see like the chair set up. And again, you just have other elevation looks throughout the renditions as well.
Yeah, I think you did a good job of sort of blending in with the present architecture, if you want to say that, with the medical facility across the road. How long's that been there? About 10 years now?
I'll say about 10.
Yeah, that's what,
I mean, I think it's,
I think it looks good.
I think it's-
And because we talked about, our ordinance was pretty short. Storage facility.
Yes.
It's kind of ridiculous. It was so short, so
Yeah.
that's something that it would look pretty stupid. in the First floor. Sure.
I appreciate the effort you posted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we apologize that it took us a little while to get back, but,
Yeah,
kind of putting all this together.
happens.
Sure.
I do have a question regarding the text amendment as far as regarding outside storage. And I said something that I kind of would like the input from the board. I'm of the opinion that I think everything should be inside. I don't know that we would want outside storage space for people to be able to store items. We don't, that's getting to something that I don't know that we want to get involved with. Because I don't know what all would be as far as depending on where it is within the township. And I looked at these other, this one here from Peters Township, I think they said they have, no dead storage shall be permitted outside an enclosed building, which I know you do have language regarding an enclosed building in there,
Correct.
which was good. I think where I was keying it, because then they also say this includes boats, trailers, et cetera. But that's right, in I, it's mentioned that we're out the perimeter, we're talking about fencing the perimeter of it, which is good. Then it says where outside storage is authorized, the fence around the outside storage area shall be supplemented with screening material and so forth. I'm wanting to get the inputs. For the outside storage. I'm feeling like,
I had the same question.
did you see, Jay?
Storage gonna be, it was outdoor storage. Is it behind the building?
Well, actually, it's a good question, and we actually just copied your existing allotment for self-storage. This is proposing for, it is an inside
That's,
storage facility.
and I think that's what we need to watch, because Q is the other one. No storage shall take place outside of an enclosed building, which was copied from Peters, except that an outside storage area for boats and recreational vehicles may be approved as part of the applicant's request. I feel like if it's an industrial area, I'm not so opposed for some of that, but in the C2, I don't know that we want to go into that outside storage. Yes, that's what yeah. I mean, industrial can be adjacent to some residential. Who's here?
Call from VW kindly.
That's not us.
Is that Joe?
Sorry, that's my house phone just went off.
Okay, all right. You okay
Yeah,
now?
I agree with Paul on that.
Sure.
You know, since you're combining this all into one big lot, the existing U-Haul that you have, I think you guys do store stuff out there. I don't know if it's storage or, your own equipment that you rent out. I mean,
We actually,
I see that once in a while, but, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but I mean, there is some other stuff stored out there periodically, and there was like the propane refueling tank and that sort of thing. I think what Paul is getting at, it's
Permanent
boats and all kinds
Right,
of others.
permanent
I
storage.
mean, they're trailers.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
advertisement for them too. They put
Yeah.
a trailer outside.
And that's
this
their
for
business.
Yeah.
$25 a day or whatever the case is. That's.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's
in and
part of
out.
your business.
it is the personal property of people that are renting these storage units. I think it should all be enclosed and not outside, because we could have vehicle, boats, I mean, we don't know, we could get into things.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So I'm
if
thinking
you-
it should be taken
If
out.
you don't mind, I can comment on it if you'd like.
No,
but
sure.
we
Go
can
right ahead,
certainly take
please.
that out. And again, I think from the first feedback that we had spoke about prior to coming in was, show us what the text amendment would look like.
Yeah,
So we
right.
copied your existing text, and what we're proposing is similar, but it's not exterior. So we could certainly put that in there and strike that out if you would like, for sure, for what we're seeking to do. And I realize that you have to look for your whole C2.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly, that's it. No, and then this is dealing with this, now, stuff that's that would be in industrial, that'd be separate? We're putting this all into one ordinance, then, for everything.
Mhm.
Because then that would actually change our existing ordinance.
This would add like a new conditional use, so it would be addressed specifically self-storage in the C2.
Just for okay, so
Okay.
things in I are gonna stay
Yeah,
as
because
is.
that's a special exception under the zoning.
That's right.
hearing board, so that's completely different.
Okay, all right, so we're not trying to bring everything together. Okay, I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we take out the outside storage. Actually, probably just a statement that all, no dead storage shall be permitted outside the building. Something like that.
Yeah, we actually, reading through your zoning ordinance too, and other municipalities that we're in, everything of course is interior climate control, individually alarmed rooms. And the customer fills out a very extensive contract, if you will, an addendum before they actually store, indicating they'll store no flammables, no perishables, no living and dwelling. Everything that you have called out is right built into our contract, where the customer actually stores with us. So,
Is it open 24 hours?
some people can have 24-hour access. Everything is individually alarmed, and you have to have an access code to get in and out. We have very few people in our buildings. Our hours of operation are 7 to 7, 7 to 8 on Fridays, 9 to 5 with our existing store. Our self-storage units are 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. for our access hours. And upon request and an additional fee, if you think that you may need it, we do offer that. And typically like a business, person may have that because we have pharmaceutical representatives that store in climate control.
And as far as somebody in there administratively or managing the building, would that be out of your original building, probably, I'm assuming?
Correct, yeah, and that's one thing that we had noticed again in the text is we're not going to actually have an office. We're going to be operated out of our existing facility.
Right, so
Correct, yep.
Do we allow, does it allow for an office if there's some, office space may be provided?
And I think it
Something
was
that-
500 square feet or less or something like that, maybe.
I think it was 5% of the building, but
5%,
Yeah, it's
okay.
5%.
And then there was, I believe you have some parking calculations in there for the office and whatnot as well, since we're not gonna have one.
Right, you
Yeah.
don't have the same part.
Sure.
what income produces this?
Exactly. That's right.
Okay,
I don't see a problem, and quite honestly, in a long-term business in the township for 40+ years, I think that does count for something. And 20 years I've been on the board, I never, ever heard a complaint about that U-Haul place in one way or another, so, that's been notable. So I think that counts for something when the board makes their decision.
any other questions? Joe, any questions?
Yes, my question is with regard to the enforcement of the what's being stored there, most notably the hazardous materials. Does your contract have requirements for periodic and/or random inspections of the facilities to make certain that they are abiding by the requirement of their contract?
not specifically, but it's indicated in there, obviously. I don't know that we've ever been asked that question before, but
Yeah, my issue is that unless there is some specific enforcement penalty for violating specifically the hazardous materials, I'm thinking in terms of not wanting to put our
our fire and safety people in harm's way because somebody stored something in there and all of a sudden we have an explosion or a fire and our fire people have to go in, firemen and fire chief have to go in there and put their lives in danger because there was no enforcement procedure in place here.
Well, I think to help hopefully answer that is not only do we have it in a contract, if we actually suspect or we actually see it, we evict people. We don't allow them to continue to stay or and or store.
How long does that take to evict somebody?
Well, we have access control that we can do it immediately. The terminology today is
Legally 48 hours.
I think it's a good question by Mr. Kopka.
Sure.
So what some townships and boroughs have, they have what they call a lockbox
Mhm.
situation. And I do know that it helps if you do have a hazard situation. Is that something that we possibly can implement here
Sure.
for the fire department to have access in case?
Yeah, we have a knockbox on most all of our buildings that we're actually building today, and we have a fire plan. As an example, we just did a reuse project at the Macy's in Center Township, and we invite the fire marshal in. Obviously, that's one of the last inspections. We've had training sessions with them in there. We provide an knockbox for them to be able to come in.
Is there something like with this facility that you want to build,
Mhm.
is it possible that, say, for instance, that we have a knockbox on each unit? Is that something, or how can we do that?
Well, realistically, no, and the reason being is because with any storage facility, it's your lock, your key, you have access to it. If you don't pay us or anything like that, we can lock you out, which is part of the storage process. You won't have access to even get inside the building because it's electronically controlled. So, I mean, for the fire,
Are the individual units inside, you know, we watch that Storage Wars or something on TV where the guy cuts the lock. Is that the same type of facility, like people have outside locks you got?
we require a disc style lock for security for our customers.
What is that?
It's a round lock, and it has a clevis that when you turn the key, the clevis locks inside the lock. It's exposed, but it can't be cut with bolt cutters.
It's not room to put a bolt cutter in.
Yeah.
You have to use a saw.
Yeah.
So what, if there were a fire in one of these units, what happens then? How does the fire department go in to access it?
They'll come through the door. They have, their roll-up doors is what they are as
Correct.
far as metal. If they need to, all of our rooms above, our floors are sprinklered and they have access. They're not contained completely. So there's chicken wire, if you will, on top that allows the water to actually come down in.
Oh,
So there's solid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Would it be possible in your agreement to put a statement in or a sentence stating that if we suspect you're not adhering to the rules of hazardous materials and so forth, we have a right to ask you to open that, or we will open ourselves? I don't know legally how we can do that. I just don't know.
And we have a really extensive contract we can provide to you, so you can
Well,
read it.
yeah, I can understand a contract. Contracts are just a piece of paper or something written on. But to really enforce that contract, you have to have the ability to enforce it.
You got it. And anybody that we have suspicion on, we comply with law enforcement and fire constantly. And whatever the law states for privacy, we have to follow as a business as well. Because if you're one of my customers, just because somebody might suspect it, if you want to get in, of course, you have to go through the letter, which is get a subpoena. And if we get a subpoena, they come to any one of our stores and we want to comply, and we do with all of them. So if they come in and they say, hey, we need to open this door because we suspect X, Y, or Z.
If
whether
they
it's-
agree to it on the contract,
Yeah,
if
exactly.
they agree to it on a contract that we suspect that you're doing this, that's gonna keep them honest.
Yeah,
If they know
absolutely.
they come in, if they sign the contract, say, yeah, he suspected and it's legit,
Mhm.
well, yeah, if not, then I'm not signing the contract.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just my thoughts.
Sure, and that's kind of when you do rent a room from us or most, I don't know about any other storage competitors as far as their actual contract. But again, our job is to provide clean, safe, well-maintained storage. And
I understand that.
yeah,
So the sprinkler system in the building, is that one with the fire department comes and plugs in a hose from a hydrant and makes the sprinklers happen? Or is the water stored up?
yeah, so that's a standpipe on the outside for water access and whatever the requirements are, whether it's a fire hydrant or standpipe on the side. The actual building on each floor is individual, it's sprinkler. So whatever the requirements are, typically your code is 18 inches from the bottom of the sprinkler head to the top of the structure. And being that all of our units are wide open and we have 5-foot hallways, the sprinkler design is adequate for the building and approved prior to purchase or building, I should say.
Any other questions for the public?
Joe,
Joe, anything else?
No, that's fine.
just a-
I'm sorry.
No, sorry, Jay, that's okay. Just wondering, because I just noticed it on one of these. We have, you mentioned about the buffer area B. Do we need to include something about minimum yard requirements also included in there?
There's already area in both minimum yard requirements for C2. If you feel that extra one should be imposed, then
No, if it's addressed somewhere, Jim, that's all. I'm just,
yeah.
if it's somewhere addressed within. at
Yeah,
some point, just regular
every zoning
requirements.
district has area in bulk requirements that have setbacks that everything needs to adhere to.
So, okay, that's,
The conditions
anything that goes
sometimes.
in there, you're gonna have to,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, okay. Sounds good, thank you, Jay.
Anything else? So this is a public hearing, so if there's anybody here from the public that wants to make a comment, now would be the time to do that about this particular text amendment.
Paragraph Z of the ordinance, of the text amendment, says that the South Strabane Township Planning Commission shall have the authority to approve the design of the structure. I think that shouldn't be in there because that's not, they're recommending body, correct?
Well, that was recommended to us.
That was your request.
That was your
some
request.
feedback, yeah.
I'm
Does
saying,
it just need reworded maybe,
It
Dennis?
just, yeah. it just needs
So
to be
it's not approved, but the South Strabane Planning Commission shall have the right to recommend the South Planning Commission shall prior, I was going to review it and recommend.
Well, I don't know whether we even need that, because we don't have any.
I
If the
think,
mall business comes in at the mall, we can't recommend a building be
Why don't we
a
Well-
just
restaurant or
delete C?
something, it's a certain design.
I
or
think what
something.
they were
So
getting
we-
at is like they made it comparable to the across the street.
Yeah, I
And we
think it
just
was
want to
more
be
of a-
able to, because it's conditional use,
Yeah.
we just want to be able to see it pro-
See the architectural
Yeah.
elevation and
Yeah,
color
just
scheme and whatnot.
to make sure it's
because you use the
compatible.
word
That's the word,
authority to-
I was gonna say comparable and compatible, that's it.
shall have the ability to recommend approval.
Yeah, generally,
That's it.
what we do in almost every municipality that we build in is you'll see our design standard book, which is kind of our elevations we were showing you this evening with color, brick, side,
Yeah.
whatnot. And we'll submit that, and maybe that's what you wanted to say.
So basically, we just change that last paragraph that the planning commission shall have the ability to recommend, approval of the design of the building.
Sure.
That sounds good, yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
Put up a can of worms. Because of anybody else coming in, we just go, a restaurant comes in, they want a Jolly Rolly sign outside.
I know that. God forbid,
worry, we
recommend that, or-
God forbid we
We-
approve it.
It really doesn't matter what we
We
say,
don't have
Jay,
any
you know
authority
that.
to do anything.
Well, that's true. We
No,
don't.
It'll change.
Hey, we're trying to pay more taxes here, okay?
You're fine, it's not you.
Play the tax card.
I'll tell you a little story though. This is a true story. What Joe brought up about the hazardous material
Okay.
is, it was a very unsavory hazardous waste disposal guy. He was going around getting hazardous waste. And it wasn't in this type of unit, it was in the regular, more typical garage units. He rented the place out for a year. He paid it for a year in advance in cash. He went there and he stored all kind of stuff and he charged a fortune for getting rid of it and never got rid of it. And then he skipped town. And about 2 months later, they cut his lock off and they found a complete hazardous cocktail of everything in the world in there. They had to send in people in hazmat suits. They didn't even know what they were dealing with. And so it can happen. I mean, this guy just, and it went on for a long time because he paid the year in advance. Everybody left him alone, and it was.
And a surprise at
And
the end.
the owner of the storage units was really left with quite a mess. So it is something to think about.
Sure. And again, we'll fine tooth that with the contract that we've been provided. I don't know that there's, if we actually have those specific recommendations, but of course we can review that.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as it's covered,
Again, anybody from the public have any comments? Okay, hearing none, and board have any more comments or questions? Yeah, then I will look for a motion to consider continued consideration of the application of text amendment to the zoning code for Armico Real Estate Company to allow mini warehouse or self-storage facilities, conditional use in C2, district recommendation to these board of supervisors.
We need a motion to close the hearing.
Oh, yeah, you're right. A motion to close the hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay, back to what I had.
I'll make that motion, whatever you have.
With the recommended
One
comment on
recommended
change, yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And it'll be sent up to the supervisors.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I will be in touch because they're gonna want to see the full text with those recommendations for the
Okay.
supervisors.
You and I will work it out.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
He hasn't approached me, but when the time comes for him to negotiate a new contract with the yumming, so to speak, he does one hell of a job. He really does. I mean, I've enjoyed working with him.
You've been a pleasure to work with too.
Good, thank you.
And like I said, you've been a very good, business in the township for many years, so that
Right.
absolutely, we need to work with you.
Well, we really do appreciate that.
History's any example in the future.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is number 5, consideration of an application for preliminary and final minor subdivision approval for Scott Murphy for the Scott Murphy consolidation plan located at 607, 639 East National Pike, further identified as parcels number 600 012-00000001-00 and 600-03-02-02-0000 in the A1 zoning district. Is there anyone here representing the Todd Murphy consolidation?
I'm sorry, I've been in touch with him. I thought he understood he had to show up tonight, so.
Did he say he was coming, or?
I talked to him earlier this week. I guess he never specifically said I'll be there. I'll take the blame for not making that clear to him that he should be here. I will note they're just consolidating the two parcels so that he can build an accessory structure.
We're aware of what.
Okay.
Well,
Since it's a little bit of our fault that he wasn't told for certain to be here, I hate to penalize him and, deny the entire application. But I do have some questions on the survey.
I'm not here to answer, so.
He's not here to answer them, but I think we should at least tell them we did a preliminary review of this. These are some of our questions, and then have him come in next month and we'll do the real deal then.
Mhm.
So you want to,
Because we have the table is,
that's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. Well, let's get comments, what the questions are.
yeah.
All right,
Go with that first.
well, one comment is there is no north arrow on this plan.
What was it?
Oh, okay, okay. We'll scratch that. I didn't see it. Other,
Your favorite.
other question I have is down in this lower left corner. You see, there's an existing road and there's a little notch out of this property. And there's no right of way or anything shown across that property to get out to Route 40. Do you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
What are you saying, Fred?
Up here.
Well, what I'm saying is that this little piece of corner there's no easement or anything. Hold on, so it's not a portion of it. This little driveway, whatever, thought, one piece of property should have some kind of a easement or access easement or something there. They're trespassing every time they use it.
Well,
You're right.
believe that Murphy owns that property.
He owns that little piece there.
Earl Palmer.
does. That I could tell.
Earl Murphy owns it?
Yes.
Earl Paul Murphy the third.
Well, then he should,
But
it
he
should
should
say
have the
again,
language
which is there.
Right, should say,
It should say.
now formally and have it.
Yeah, this should be called out, this little piece.
It should have the name, it should have the parcel, and everything else, number on it.
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
That wouldn't be too bad, but when you're using it, access through 40 too.
Once again, I asked a question, if I may interrupt.
Go ahead.
How many times do we have to see plans come from this
On Mount.
individual that don't even have a location map on?
I know.
It's extremely frustrating to me that somebody who's been in the business for that long and
I see this, Mr. Kopko, and all other different townships, same type of work. I concur with you.
From him? Yeah, we've seen this as long as I've been on the board.
Same person.
Same guy, yeah.
Same one.
well, my suggestion to Mr. Sutter and Mr. Stanek is that, when something comes to the township prepared by Mr. Mounts, that there be at least a cursory review to make sure before it even goes to the engineer that it at least has the possibility of being compliant with the ordinance.
I agree with you, Joe. I agree with you 100% on that. Yeah, I think that's solves the problems.
I'll tell you what will happen too, Joe. I've dealt with him on my own. He will, and this is awkward.
No, it's not, it's being recorded.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll wait for the meeting to go.
All right, so basically, we have a discrepancy or a fallacy in the.
Yeah, there's an omission of some information on that parcel. Since we're tabling it, I think it's incumbent upon us to tell Mounts and tell Mr. Murphy that there's some issues here that need cleared up by Mr. Mounts. And since they weren't here and they weren't really notified succinctly to be here, I think we'll just table this and then have it next month and hopefully the changes.
I will note, I did just try and call the number provided on the application, see if I could get him to talk over on speaker, but I got voicemail.
Yeah, all right, Jim.
We'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion to table it with comments.
Do we have a second? I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Question. On this, we're talking about this, this piece to get access to 40. And on the engineer's comments on the one, it says, it's mentioning a highway occupancy permit needs to be issued. Notation on the plat that additional access to a state, shall only be authorized by a highway.
Any new structure.
He has about 200 feet of access.
That's what I'm-
Open.
Well, okay, I'm
Yeah,
just,
he can pull out of there anywhere.
yeah. So, but he actually has to get a permit from PennDOT to be able to do that.
Any driveway.
Any driveway needs
Yeah.
that.
So if he has
Gotcha.
any
Huge
kind of
review.
building there, he's gonna needs a cut.
Maybe that's why I left the corner out, he doesn't want us to know.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
he doesn't have an access for that. Of course,
Any
there's
other
no right of way for it either.
Well, that's the thing. There should be, but if it's all theirs,
What happens when Thanksgiving goes south and they
Well,
start talking to each other anymore?
exactly. That's it. Yeah, I don't care if you related, actually, you need it even more.
Yeah. All right, any more questions? We have one other item. Number 6, staff update.
I just want to provide a quick overview of some of the in-progress applications. Snuffy, who we've been having issues getting them here for a pre-application meeting, I got in touch with them. They have stated they're holding off pending the township sewage issues going on.
Which one's the stuffy one?
It's the Quarry Lakeview.
Oh, okay, I got it. All right.
Side. Kisling subdivision, they still have not gotten their perk tests. I've been in regular contact with their engineers, so they're postponing them for that. The Menards, who came for a pre-app meeting earlier this year, they're looking to submit for applications for land development in the spring. I will note they are likely to require variances prior to appearing before this body though. And finally, welcome to Dan. I know Jay already gave him a bit of a welcome, but we're happy to have you here on the planning commission. And there is still one vacancy to fill. And that's all.
All right, and if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Adjourn.
Second,
I'll second it.
all those in favor, aye. So adjourned.